So there's that, one verse a million or, a billion format that I've noticed. Then I guess when I zoom out, like you've always done kind of human experiments, right? Like the one
experiments.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? Like social experiments kind of
whatever,
like 1 versus 100.
Cool stuff.
Right? Or 1-year-old versus 100-year-old. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Ages 1 through 100 compete for.
Bro, that's probably the most complicated title I've ever done. And somehow it did well. I don't even know.
But that concept was really fun.
Yeah.
And you're doing things now where like, I felt connected to the contestant at my age, which is so smart, right? When you do that, you're like, I'm 33. So I was connected to the 33-year-old, right? I was like, okay, that's cool. And I can say on your new video, there's something similar that kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of that video, the stakes rose like crazy. And I didn't anticipate that.
Yeah, I have so much to say there. It's like, I used to be a big fan of like simplicity, like keep the challenges as simple as possible. It's like, 200, some of these videos, 300, 400 million people are gonna watch it. Like, it's a lot of people. I gotta like make this stuff as simple as possible. Or like, some of these 400 million people just aren't gonna understand it. They're just not, is what I used to believe. But in that video, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna throw my preconceived notions out the windows. Like these like challenges, if they vote for them, I'm gonna make them a little more complicated. I'm gonna add some more like things that you have to like flick your brain on to like really comprehend. And like, the last challenge, like, when I'm filming it, I'm like, oh, man, I just don't see how like everyone actually understands what's going on. The whole like, 2 briefcases, one has 500,000, one doesn't, no one looks in it. And then one person looks and then they decide if they swap. Like that is one of the more complicated things I've done. And so after we filmed it, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. But I like grabbed that, I had them edit that clip and I just went to like 40 people, from all ages. And I was just like, watch this and tell me if you get it. And all 40 of them were like, yeah, that made sense. I understand it. And like, as long as they were actually paying attention, it made perfect sense, And I was like, oh. And then I was like, okay. And then my nerves calmed down and I uploaded the video. And instead of people being like, I'm lost or I don't understand the ending, everyone's like, oh my gosh, the ending was like, oh, that was so cool. It was like
one of the best.
It was so thought provoking. I was so grabbed. And so like, it changed my perspective. Like, I actually think I can have more complicated stuff and people still easily follow along, even though I have the skill I have, which I didn't think so before, which is why you should always innovate and adapt.
Well, also, let's think about football, the Super Bowl. Like, football is a really complicated game.
It is.
Right? And,
it is.
And a lot of people watch that game, but it's pretty complex.
Yeah, but they've also had training their whole lives and blah, blah, blah.
And when it comes down to it, it's also like one team is going this way, the other is going that way.
Because like, I still don't even fully understand football. Exactly. I'm just like,
boxing is so interesting because it's so simple.
I think, when I watched that video, you also left space for character building, which is something we talked to you about 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
It was advice from us that, like, not to say that that's
no, of course,
at all
go for it.
part of
no,
it.
We'll take
everyone tells you.
Like, there's an element of, when you make space for character building, potentially people click off.
Yeah.
Because they're like,
exactly. I was worried about that before.
I'm not connected to that person. And in that video, I think you successfully pulled that off, where one of the final contestants, it's his daughter's birthday.
I know.
And she comes in and like, he's emotional.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first times where I was like, whoa.
We had a guy who was in a cube for like 7 days. It was his daughter's birthday. And so we brought his daughter in. It hit hard. Yeah.
Did you almost cut that?
No, bro. When I saw that the first time, I literally cried. I was like, oh my gosh. Like in person, I was kind of crying. But when I saw the first cut of the video, I literally, tears came down my cheeks. I was like, oh, I've never felt this way before watching one of our videos. Like even just thinking about it, like a tear.
Yeah, you're getting teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's good. That was a very emotional moment. And so, that video we tested a lot. We tested a little more complex challenges, but we also tested like, screw it. Like people say they want better stories from us. Let's do it. And again, that's where I threw all my like things I normally worry about out the window there. I was like, simplicity. I was like, screw it. We'll be a little complex, and then on the other end, it's like, I'm very, fast. I was like, let's slow it down.